CBS News political director and Face the Nation moderator John Dickerson is with us. John, good morning.
Morning, Charlie.
Let's talk about tweeting.
Let's talk about tweeting.
A method of criticizing the wealth of his cabinet and how Trump responds.
Well, I think Donald Trump's argument is these people have been successful in private enterprise, and they're going to be really successful in government. The question is a couple of things. One, what does success mean in Donald Trump? If your job is to bring in and dismantle a department, then that's a different level of success than we would have seen in the past. The second thing is, do they have a public service instinct? That's the thing in government that's different than in private enterprise. You care about the public good. You're not just caring about the bottom line. And then the other thing is what Truman said about Eisenhower, which is when you come in and you're a general and you're used to issuing orders, sometimes the bureaucracy says, oh, it just doesn't listen. So if you're used to being in private enterprise where people do exactly what you say, what's it going to be like when you come into government?
I mean, President Obama and his administration and his labor secretary put in a lot what they call worker protections. If you install someone who he's nominating for the labor secretary, what kinds of things on a practical effect might a worker experience?
Well, Mr. Puzder, there are two things. One, that enforcement of worker protections, enforcement of all the existing regulations that are there. Then there would be removing what they would see as burdensome on business. So everything from paperwork to, a lot of it is OSHA, so a lot of it is workplace safety stuff. And then the other thing is being on the lookout for new things. Or I'm arguing now from sort of the Obama case, is a labor secretary who would be on the lookout for new possible abuses of workers, that if the interests are not aligned the way they would be in the Obama administration, you wouldn't have that kind of always searching the landscape for ways to protect workers. Now, what they would say on the Trump side is they would be on the lookout for ways to make it easier for businesses to work in an unfettered way, which creates greater profits that then go back to the workers.
So he's scheduled to have his first news conference next week, where he's going to lay out his plans, what he's going to do with his company. What's at stake for him at this event next week?
Well, I guess.
Is there anything at stake for him next week?
We're kind of learning still what it means for things to be at stake for Donald Trump. In other words, in the old days, we would have said, well, he wants to show that he's presidential. He wants to show that he can get through a press conference. But Donald Trump is redesigning this job. And so he will do, you could imagine what he has tried to do all throughout the campaign, which was take an old form, a press conference, and use it in his own way. Remember when he turned his press conferences essentially into PR events for his hotels?
Yes.
You can imagine that he will try to capture this and use it.
But do we expect to see the President of the United States, my original question, simply to be tweeting throughout his presidency and making comments about everything that comes through under the sun?
I think
is that good for us?
No follow-up to a tweet.
So there are people advising Donald Trump who say, and Newt Gingrich has said it out loud, stop doing this. You need to, that the presidential voice is one that you can squander.
Exactly.
It is not a good that just is constantly renewing, and you need to do this judiciously. Now, we saw during the campaigns there were times that he stopped this tweeting, but he has successfully learned how to create chaos and operate within it. And one of the ways he creates chaos is through his tweets. And so it's a very useful way for him to get his message out, but also change the landscape.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thanks. On Sunday on Face the Nation, John interviews the President-elect's senior advisor, Kellyanne Conway, plus Senators John McCain and Bernie Sanders. That's Sunday here on CBS.